Hello. Today is Tuesday, October 28th, 2008. In 1 week, we'll have the elections here in the United States. I haven't, what do you think I'm voting for? Can you see my t-shirt? By the way, I've had several of you comment about my ratty t-shirts. I've got several t-shirts like my Kansas City t-shirt that I like or whatever. If you've got a new t-shirt for your school, your church, your city, your state, your country, or club or organization or whatever, a new one, extra large, send it to me. I'll wear it on the video. I'll replace those ratty t-shirts I've got. I had a number of people comment about my hospital video, my videos on hospital security over the years. I'm starting about 2000 here, 2002. And there were several people who asked questions. There were several people who said make more videos on hospital security. There were several people who said explain what you said in this video about that. I want to hear more about that. As you see, I have no notes. I should make some notes. Maybe I'll do that from videos after this. Let me really quickly, because I have trouble droning on. Let me real quickly try to cover these things. For those of you who are working hospital security and have left comments, I understand, and you understand, but very few other people understand that hospital security, how important it is, how it impacts everything. I don't care if, when you're born, you're born in a hospital. When you die in a hospital. If, your parents are gonna, you're gonna end up yourself. I just ended up in the hospital for some tests, $50,000 worth of tests. If you watch television and you watch these cops shows or whatever, you'll see some idiot doing something totally crazy, maybe naked, trying to jump off a roof or cutting himself with a knife or whatever, and then he runs and the police have to chase him and all this kind of stuff, and the paramedics come. You'll hear them say, or they'll tell you, he was transported to a hospital. Hospital really are the center of things. Everybody that's goes to a hospital is agitated, nervous, scared, angry, or whatever. Now, hospital security officers have to deal with that. In my 30 years, I saw a lot of things. I mentioned a few of them. Had several people comment. I put a little cute story. I put a story in there that I thought was funny. Maybe it wasn't funny, about the rent-a-cop arrest. I had several people comment that's the highlight of his career, or it's trying to be a little humor there. If you're working hospital security, you're doing a good thing. If you're working for some hospital and you're not armed, now if they have you working in a control room, monitoring closed circuit television sets, and you don't leave that room, fine. If you're doing the normal hospital security functions and you're out there patrolling and responding to alarms and to reports of people armed in fights and disturbances and drunks and ODs and everything, you need to be armed. And if you're not armed, apparently the hospital has made a decision that they don't want you armed, for they have their reasons. You've heard them, and I've heard them. But I never worked hospital security that I wasn't armed, except after 30 years of hospital security, I went to Orlando, Florida, and went to work for a contract guard agency. They put me in charge of their security at the hospital, and That was unbelievable. That was unbelievable. I've never been treated, so they just treated the security like it was just, well, I don't even want to go into it. You know, we were not armed. They didn't even want us in the hospital. We were staying in the parking lot unless they called us in. Now, of course, they had problems with the previous security companies that they've had. They've gone through several. I can tell you some stories. I heard some stories that are kind of funny and tragic at the same time. But other than that, if you're working someplace, if you're working in a hospital and you're not armed, I know you got to support your family, you got to support yourself, but if you can, you know, don't quit, you know, and end up unemployed, but get you a job working someplace, get you a job doing some other kind of work, get you a job at another hospital where you will be armed. You should not be performing those kind of duties if you're not armed. I was asked about, I told you in one of the videos about, well, there was 2 security officers at St. Joe Hospital. We had 2 security officers shot. The first one was permanently disabled. The second one was killed. I mentioned in there that the first security officer, when he was permanently disabled, he ended up in the intensive care unit. He was there for quite a while, and I mentioned that that they came up to him and they sprayed mace in his eyes, and then the other guy shot him. 2 guys. He was in the intensive care unit for a long time. A guy from food service came out from time to time. Of course, a lot of people ask about him, but a guy from food service came out from time to time. He worked in food service at the hospital, and asked how Dan was doing and if he remembered anything. Well, Dan finally recovered. He tried to come back to work at the hospital, but he just wasn't able to, so he had to be retired. Later on, a year or so, the guy from food service disappeared. I didn't really notice that he disappeared. I mean, I noticed he didn't come out and ask anymore. I just figured he didn't come out and ask him. He quit. And I quit at about the same time. When the second security officer was shot, when the first security officer was shot, I told the hospital administrator, you need to do such and such and such. You know, I need to get bulletproof vest. You need to put a gate up across this church parking lot here, and you need to have a meeting with the security officer about what we can do, or this is going to happen again. They didn't get bulletproof vest. They didn't put a gate up across between the church parking lot and the doctor's parking lot. The guy who shot John came through the church parking lot where there was no gate, shot John in the chest. If John had had a vest on, he'd have been fine. John shot the guy who shot him. John was dead when he hit the ground. So I saw the hospital administrator that morning when he came in, and I said, sir, there's John's blood on the ground now. What are you going to do? And he said, I'm not going to do anything. Well, I changed his mind in about 2 hours or less. I sent every doctor that showed up at the hospital, everyone to his office. I told him, there's John's blood. I just talked to the hospital administrator. He won't do anything about it. You know, what do you need, Jim? You know, bulletproof vest, a gate across there. They all went in. You know, less than 2 hours later, the assistant hospital administrator came home, acted like he was going to his car. He was a prick, by the way. Oh, I guess I don't need to go to my car. Oh, by the way, Jim, we're going to get a gate across there, and we're going to get you guys bulletproof vest. So I stuck around long enough to make sure they did get the bulletproof vest, and that they did put the gate across there. But then I knew I needed to find work at another hospital because my name had been circled. So I went to work at Trinity Lutheran Hospital, and the first week or so that I was there, I was at the entrance to where the employees who were working the second shift were to come into park, and in pulls this food service guy who had worked at St. Joe Hospital, who had come out and asked about Dan. And he looked shocked to see me, and he said, "Jim, what are you doing here?" And I said, kidding, but not smiling. I said, "I came over to keep an eye on you." He went inside, he quit his job, and that was it. Later on, he was arrested, and his buddy was arrested. They were the two guys who shot Dan, the first security officer. They, by the way, they shot the first security officer, and then a few days later in this was in Kansas City, Missouri. A few days later in Kansas City, Kansas, there was a robbery at a liquor store where they sprayed mace in the guy's eyes. Two black guys. When I read that in the paper, I went to the hospital director of security, a retired Kansas City, Missouri police officer, real nice guy, Bud Fisher, really nice guy, one of the nicest guys I ever worked for. But I went to him and I said, "Sir, look, this is the same MO or whatever." I said, "Let me go over to Kansas City, Kansas, and get with the Kansas City, Kansas Police Department and explain to him that these may be the guys who shot a security, officer. No, that's none of our business. We're a hospital security, and don't you do it, all that kind of stuff." I didn't do it. Later, I found out that they shot Dan. They did do this liquor store. I can't remember if they shot the guy or not. They did do the liquor store shooting. They came back later into this neighborhood where we were, and down the street there was a bowling alley, and they shot and killed a security officer at the bowling alley. And then months or a year or so later, whatever, a few blocks from the hospital, they shot an off-duty Jackson County deputy sheriff and killed him. And that's what they were arrested for. So the whole story came together. Let me end this now and come back with another video.